Hey friends, this is Chaplain Charles here at VCU Health and with Massey Cancer Center. We're continuing a particular series on survivorship that is focusing on different aspects of personal agency. And I have been talking over the past couple of months of things that deal with spirituality as well as mindfulness. Today's topic is actually talking about mindful listening. And what that is an opportunity for an individual or their caregiver, or even providers there to engage in their interactions with one another in a way that allows them to be most fully present, to feel seen, to feel heard, and to understand what is also being received by them amid the many distractions and things that we do that we're probably unaware of unless we're actually very intentional about how we perceive different interactions in the moment. And for that, I can often just start with asking you this. If you were to have a conversation with somebody, but they're looking specifically at their computer and they're typing and they're not looking you in the eye, what do you feel? What are you thinking? Are you actually thinking about the fact that that person's not looking in the eye and looking at their computer and typing? Or are you actually listening to what that person is talking about or asking you to tell them how you're feeling and what's going on? This could be exacerbated by a number of other things. What if you've been in the waiting room for about an hour and you get a ding on your phone that talks about the next appointment that you have, and you know you don't have a lot of time before you actually go in to see somebody else? And the stresses and the anxieties that we have about what was, what could be, what is, and what is still uncertain, bringing all of that stuff into the room and then trying to be fully present, especially when those conversations stem around the possibility of a change in treatment, the possibility of a new diagnosis, the possibility of major changes in results or labs that are taken. And for me, as I've also heard from a lot of other people who are patients and family members here, it is very easy that when there is something like a new diagnosis, or perhaps even just news on whether there is reoccurrence or not and a checkup, that patients, family members, caregivers, they recall becoming fixated on a particular phrase, and then pretty much everything else that happened in the conversation with a caregiver or a care provider onwards was sort of background noise because of feeling fixated on a particular idea that was almost too much for us to fully process in the moment. And that's actually what sort of the studies that we have today show. There's a study by C. Scott that says, Suzanne Jones, who says the impact of mindfulness on empathy, active listening, and perceived provisions. This is talking about emotional support, which is coming out of Sage publications. And it was talking about that when patients convey understanding when they're talking to their providers, there's that talkback method. Can you tell me what you heard? And then there's this talkback of reiterating the things that they've heard, but feeling in the moment that they understood, but only after the visit did they realize whether or not something really sunk in, or did they even have time to process all of the information, especially if there's an emotional attachment to that information in a way that was actually most helpful. And one of the things that is important about mindful listening is to be aware of those cues that are happening more and more in the moment as opposed to after the fact. Because if you feel safe or you're more aware of the things that lead you to distraction or lead you to feel stressed out or more anxious, you can call attention to that, redirect it, and then be able to focus on the actual conversation at hand, whereby maybe you can ask those questions that you meant to ask because you wrote them down, or you have questions in the moment that at the time you just didn't really know what to ask. So when we talk about mindful listening, I want to talk about a couple of things. It is listening not in the earful sense, but in different ways. Whenever we are in a place of setting, we can name exactly how we are feeling before we even enter the room. If we can name that, we can take a break and say, I need to be aware that right now I'm feeling such and such, or I am angry because I had to do this, or I'm really happy because I had to do that. Whenever you are in a face-to-face conversation, it's always good to have people surrounding you that you know will be a support and also a listening ear, because we thrive when we're seen and we're heard. And that goes from whether you're a provider or even a patient. Whenever you're in a conversation, listen with your body. Face and focus on the speaker at hand. Make sure that your attention is on them. Make sure that your attention and your awareness is on your own body in and of itself, that you can call to attention how you feel in the moment. Do you feel loose or tight? Do you feel short of breath and tense? Do you feel relaxed with deep breathing and awareness, especially when different aspects of the topic of conversation change? Listening with your heart, trying to enter the room from a compassionate place, realizing that you are advocating for yourself for good health and you should show yourself love. If you're showing yourself love, you're showing yourself to be worthy of having a voice and also making a stand of what is needed for you to best make sense of what is going on. It's okay to ask a provider to try to meet you in a particular way, especially around topics of your medical journey, changes, and news that's actually very heavy. If there's something that you know helps you to receive information in a better way, there's nothing wrong with being able to speak up and say, can you try to meet me where I'm at? And you also are trying to meet them where they are. Listening with your ears, with your eyes, watching and observing. What do you do with your hands whenever you feel nervous? What do you do with your feet? What are the things going on in your mind that sort of could be a distraction? And then also listening with your mouth, reflecting back words and emotions. This isn't the same thing as like a talkback method of meeting with somebody and being able to name that, okay, can you tell me what you heard that I said? So that if there is miscommunication, they can talk about it again. Rather, listening with your mouth is trying to say, when you said that, I noticed that, I started thinking about this memory from the past. I got distracted. I need to realize that that's not where we are right now. That's not me. Can you repeat that again, please? And that is a way of being able to reframe and reorient yourself in the present moment so that you can be your best advocate. Or even if you have somebody, because you know that you have a hard time being able to take in all that information, especially if you're under treatment and you're really just trying to focus on being having the most strength and awareness you yourself have, having somebody else who is good at being a listener with all of their senses on your team can help make sure that the questions that need to be asked are heard and that you're getting the attention that you deserve. I want to leave you with a particular practice, and it's really a group practice, and it helps to sort of take away the taboo of being able to speak up for ourselves, but also recognize how easy it is for us to sort of push things on the back burner, our subconscious mind, so to speak, or things that are not readily available unless we're really intent on trying to figure out why do we have certain patterns that we do. When we bring awareness to the moment, we can stop certain thoughts or actions and re-enter conversations in a holistic way. So if you have somebody that is a caregiver with you, a family member, a friend, you can try this exercise. Think of things in your life and pick out one example where it can be very simple, be very complex, where you know that you have felt stressed. And then think of one particular thing that you look forward to. Allow space and time for the other person or persons to be able to do the same. To think on something that is stressful and to think on something that you look forward to. And then once everybody's finished taking that time of discernment and slowing things down, each is able to then participate in sort of telling that story, taking time, sharing what it is that is stressing them out. And they can go into detail about what it is, how it feels, what's going on. And then we listen intently to what is also happening by those who are sharing their stories. What is their journey? What are they saying they're feeling? And what's happening to me on the inside, in my mind, in my body, in my heart, as I'm receiving information from somebody else. When all of the ideas and storytelling is over, we then take a pause and try to think back, or even think in the moment of our storytelling. How does it feel to actually speak about a tough subject? How does it feel when I talk about something that I'm looking forward to? All of those things, whether we feel that it's a negative or a positive, our bodies react. Our thoughts react. Maybe we're not speaking in a linear fashion like we do, or it's more cyclical. And we can understand that better by being intentional about what just happened and how we spoke or received information. And then when you have all of the group together and you've shared all of these things and you've been intentional about listening to yourself, step 5 would be, or step 4 would be, participate and observe the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions of when you hear other people talk. But lastly, when you break out, you can also sort of share the aftermath with other people. When I heard you talking like this, I felt this way. And it gives this opportunity for 2 or 3 or 4 people together to actually share perspectives and see if they match up. And the amazing thing is that you'll get to know a person a lot better about what helps them to listen, what allows them to feel safe, what allows you to feel that you have a voice by simply talking back to other people about how you experienced a story or even sharing your own. The more that we do this, the more we are aware of those little things that are distractions. And questions that you can ask yourself in this is, how do you feel when you have to speak, or how do you feel when you have to listen? You notice there are things like your mind wandering, such as when you're having to listen to Chaplain Charles talk about mindful listening. Do you think about the baseball game or whether or not the stove was left on? If you were distracted, what were those distractions? Were they memories tied to a hard situation? Were they things that you had to do? Things that you like to think on when you feel stressed? Is that a repetitive thing? Did you judge other people whenever you heard their stories? Such as whenever you saw somebody that was typing at a computer but not really paying you attention, were you more focused on that than the actual conversation that was happening at hand? Do you feel you're judging yourself in the midst of those conversations? Where do you feel empathy? How does this feel for your body? What in your body feels right when you're speaking? How did your body feel right before it and after that? And then what are you feeling right now? These things change very quickly. And the reality is we have lots of thoughts that pass through our minds multiple times over and new ones within seconds of all of the different other interactions that we have. If you think that it is important to find better ways to name in the midst of the time of your treatment what you need, sometimes it's good to be able to reflect on how best we can accomplish that. Again, so mindful listening. I leave that to you because so many times I've met individuals that will talk about, I had a really good conversation, but I didn't feel heard. Or I had a really good conversation, but I forgot to ask all of these questions. I just sort of got lost in it, and I don't know the next time that I'm going to be able to talk with this person. Whatever techniques are able to help you sort of stymie away those distractions, whether or not they're meant to sort of protect us from really hard situations, we can use our whole selves to sort of recenter our awareness to be present in the moment and advocate in the best way possible, which is to be your authentic self. If you feel scared, name it and be present. If you feel hopeful, name it and be present. Listen and offer whatever you have in your heart and your mind. Receive and feed back what it is that you're taking from those who are a part of your team, whether they are professional medical physicians, whether they're nurses, whether they're chaplains, whether you're friends or family. Everybody has a voice, and it is when we talk together that we really achieve a glimpse of what holistic healing is really all about. So I hope that this was somewhat helpful. If nothing else, just remember that your voice really matters. And a lot of times we silence it without ever trying to. And it's because there's just so much going on. Listen to your hearts and your minds. And I look forward to being able to talk with you all next month as a part of our survivorship series in integrative health. Again, I'm Charles Riffey, chaplain here at VCU Health and Massey Cancer Center. Until next time, my friends, I will see you soon. Bye-bye.